What's good, everybody? Back once again, and this time I'm over here. Been having a couple like thoughts to video I seen. It was between JJ Redick and Gilbert Arenas, and two people that I really like their way of thinking about basketball. Um, and I was like, I sort of like a lot of I was like, obviously they give you the realistic or the actual the X's and O's and the way the game played and mindset. With all these dudes that play like the professional sport that each one is always talking about. Although I do think sometimes sometimes in the discussions it gets a little bit depending on depending on if it's all people who play the same ball, or if they got like the person who never had a hand in dirt, or never been stepped on the court, that type of thing. So they always have various amount of opinions, but anyway, that's for another day. But JJ and Gilbert were having a debate basically, and they were talking about Jokic, and they were talking about Jokic being like the best in the game, and it's being like his time, of course. So and they were saying, what would it take for him, I guess, like maybe like be the face or to get people on board with Denver, and Gilbert basically saying there's nothing. Gilbert saying that there's nothing that they could be done unless he played on like specific teams or something like that. And Redick is just he's, I guess, not like dumbfounded because he understands the way the game play. Yes, how you got to play the game within the game kind of thing or whatnot. But and then it became like a sort of like a hooper versus like the casual person experience, which is always my thing of because I'm like you it's like people are always talking about like like the inside people like who like that dig basketball and play basketball and stuff like that versus like the casuals. And the thing is, I like a lot. Sometimes to me, I'm like, we think of casual people to like people that might just be like, oh, what, there's basketball playing in the city today? Oh, I guess I'll go watch. It seems like it's like it's so foreign. Where I'm like, sometimes the casual is like the person who can't watch 82 games, but they have a favorite team, or they still like basketball, but they don't have a favorite team. Maybe they don't have a particular player, or maybe they grew up in a generation where it's like, well, that their favorite player's gone now, so they just sort of watch basketball when it's on or whatever like that. And I get like that's casual, but I guess it's saying that the way that I feel like not just the people in like in like on like the comment section and stuff like that call people casual, because they just call people casual who's just like you don't know nothing about basketball casual. And sometimes that's how what sometimes like people who like I know like Jay Williams, I listen to him and like Keyshawn and Max on their show on ESPN, and sometimes they'll do that as well. And sometimes I'm like, I was like, this is one of my things too, is like people use insults that was insult back in the day where they're like, that's just somebody that living in their own basement. And I was like, okay, yeah, but y'all been saying that since like the 70s. So 70s, 80s. Like, people been saying that for so long now. I'm like, that's not a thing anymore. Just like how y'all feel like the narrative of things that y'all get said to y'all isn't that either. So it's like they say casual, and I'm like, no, a lot of times casual could just mean people who just don't watch basketball games as much as you do or whatever. But anyway, so it's so Gilbert like, oh, unless you Lakers, Boston, or New York or something like that. And JJ's trying to say, yeah, but this is a dude that gets triple doubles. I was like, he's running their offense. I'm like, he can't be stopped. Gilbert saying like it is not appeasing or whatever, compared to like a Steph or a Giannis or a Ja or something like that. And to be honest, I really agree with Gilbert more than JJ, just because, especially considering how like I've seen like both of I've seen when JJ does like his podcast and he talks about things versus Gilbert, how he talks about things, and I feel like Gilbert talks about things more like how most people talk about it. Like of course, like he can tell you about the X and O's. He can tell you like what this is and all this stuff, and he go in depth like like anybody else who play basketball. But I feel like but he still says stuff that's kind of like, what you would hear, like you heard a fan say it or you read that, you be up in arms about it, but because he played basketball, it's okay. Where JJ gets so into the game plan, like he, like he's like a head coach with it, that he's going to see Jokic in a different light than Gilbert is. Where they both like him, but I'm like, you just not seeing them that same way. And then so it got to thinking of like who, like, then they were talking about now that LeBron and Steph is basically at the very end, who's the person or player that could take the NBA, that next step. And it was like, that was sort of the debate of like Jokic, and it's like, no, that's not going to be it. And I personally believe that as well, that I don't think Jokic can. Um, Now I don't know if that's a thing, like, like how I first, like the shiny, I'm butchering his name, but on Tani, the baseball player from overseas, from Asia, that, when I was like, Stephen A was like, he can't be the face of the league or whatever like that. And sort of now he sort of is, but he also isn't. Even though he got a New Balance commercial and stuff like that, but he still isn't. Like, I feel like everybody recognized him as one of the great players in the MLB, like Trout, but I don't think I hear of him as like the player that's hot. That's why I feel like that. That's a different thing. Like, I'm like, Yo could be thought of as the man, but he doesn't do anything that is highlight reel. And I feel like that's sort of what people were saying. I mean, I was like, I feel like it's a thing. Because they say it like Tim Duncan. They were like, Tim Duncan got like 4 rings, so a ring doesn't really matter. And I don't think it would matter. Now, I do also think, too, that I'm like, Jokic is also in the day and age of social media. So he can be plastered up a lot better, even if he's not willing to do his, even though he's not like his job, but like he's not really, there's no personality that he's showing. There ain't nothing that he doing the show. But I'm like, people can post and stuff like that with him and throw highlights that where you could get him in circulation. But the thing is, let's be honest, no matter what time it is, decade or whatever like that, there's always just going to be what is cool. Jokic is not that. He's not like incredibly in shape like LeBron to do anything masterful. He's not jumping out or like got some crazy athletic like paralysis like Giannis, or like Ja being like a guard but that could jump over any big dude. I was like, think about like Derrick Rose was like that. I'm like, even Westbrook was like that, where you could have gave him the face. I was like, KD's old now, so he can't do that. But I was like, KD was sort of a face that you could think of outside of like LeBron. Steph ended up becoming that with his long range shooting ability. Um, Even though he hasn't gotten like major, I still think Dame has, just because he has the same shooting like ability that Steph has, and he's also had playoff moments that is like ridiculous. Like, I already got like 3 things in my head of like Dame being ridiculous in the playoffs. Whereas like Jokic, he has put up like gaudy numbers, but no. And I mean, and that don't really even have nothing to do with him like making it far like the last couple of years and nothing like that. It's just that there's nothing there to really go there. And it's like, so then they were trying to think of like other players, and then as they started with, and they sort of naming them, and I don't actually think I was like, I actually don't know who would actually be it. I was like, I feel like if Zion was fully healthy, maybe, but no, I was like, but they wasn't even they really wasn't putting Pelican games on TV still, even when Zion was able to go. I was like, they tell you talking about Booker, and I think Booker would have had a shot if they would have won the championship, just because I feel like Phoenix is a little bit more like the aesthetic of play, their colors. I was like, I think them being on like the West Coast, and they sort of play a little bit earlier than some of the other West Coast teams, that could have worked. But I think right now it's sort of missing the window on Devin Booker being that because it almost seems like if you don't really get somebody while they're like 22, then you sort of miss the window. Like Giannis, I think Giannis is one, he could jump out the gym and he could play, like he's freakishly long as his name and stuff like that. But like he's also like very likable and he's willing to play around and stuff like that. So it's like, of course, he showed up in like a Fortnite game. You know, he can do that. They talk about like Tatum, and Tatum do got like he got a few of the commercials and stuff like that. I think winning the championship would have also helped him, and plus he's in like I don't know necessarily like big market, but I was like he's at one of the most recognizable franchises. Uh, I was like I was like uh, the Kyrie one is weird just because it's like like it's Kyrie and like he sells out shoes that people like he got the handle and stuff like that, but he doesn't have like commercials but he did have Uncle Drew for a while, so he did get a lot of people when they was young as well too, and which I think is like the factor here. I like Wembenyama probably can. I was like so the only ones I really can think of, I think even though the team may not be, and this might have to be just their level of stuff, and hopefully the organizations can work out. Anthony Edwards, because he has it all on him. Now, like he can work, even if it's Minnesota, people have seen like they show that they'll watch. Oh, and because I was like, there was really no reason to watch them versus the Nuggets, but you want to see what Anthony Edwards going to kind of do. But I think he could. LaMelo Ball in Charlotte, while yes, not necessarily like the franchise necessarily, but LaMelo has been like the star guy in some way ever since, his daddy and Lonzo and stuff like that. Like he got a couple commercials as well. How like he flashy. He was the one that was trying to doing these long range shots like Steph. And he was sort of like that first generation of the Steph created these kids person. So I was like, he can do it. But I was like, once again, we're talking about the organizations. I said Victor just because his crazy, I was like wingspan and height and all this other stuff. Even though he's with the Spurs, and the Spurs ain't necessarily sexy, but because it's the Spurs, if they can get going early, you can at least visit all the stuff with the Spurs, and guess what? You will put them like the thing is sometimes like also matching up. So it's like guess what? Spurs versus Lakers. Oh, who hadn't seen? I was like, that's a thing that you could say that you could start that back up, especially if AD stays with the Lakers. Boom. I was like, Spurs with the Heat. Man, they used to play in the final. Let's get that thing a little bit going or whatever like that. You to put them up against better teams and you'll watch them more so than it's like, let's say like Spurs Timberwolves. I do want to see Anthony Edwards see if he dunks on him. That's a different story though. I was like, I don't really. I was like, maybe Chad if he comes out, and cause I was like, he sort of had a little bit about him, but cause I was like, I feel like Shea doesn't. I don't know if he has it. So, I mean, and I'm just trying to think of young stars, and I don't. I was like, those are some of the only ones. I was like, Bancaro. I was like, he wasn't like necessarily like like yes, if you want to watch basketball and other stuff, you're gonna watch him with the Magic, but he ain't got nothing that's drawing anybody to the Magic necessarily, at least right now. But Orlando has been able to do pretty good with like Shaq and Howard and stuff like that, so that could come around. Um, I was like, see, it was Trae Young for a minute, but now Trae Young is sort of soured. I feel like that's not a thing. I was like, I feel like Luka got a couple more, I was like, years to hang on because he was such a phenomenon coming in where everybody loved him early on and stuff like that. And I liked him too. I liked him in that draft, but and everybody been clamoring for him. But now it's starting to hit that level where it was like, all this potential. And then it's like, okay, what are you doing here? Just what happened if you've been in the league for a while. But they're just really not and that's sort of going to be crazy because I was like, while I don't think that, like, I still think LeBron's going to probably play. I mean, he said until his son gets there, so I was like, at least 2 more years. Steph, I still think like Steph got like 4 or 5 years. I think KD might have 3. I feel like the KD one probably going to surprise everyone just because I feel like he likes hooping, but I don't know if he'll. He seemed like he like LeBron. LeBron got different reasons of why he's gonna go and stop. Uh, KD, I feel like just like he gonna play ball till he don't want to play ball no more, and I feel like Steph. To me, Steph just seems I was like he has more of the game because he can eventually just always just become a shooter. He can always eat where he's not the leader of the team or whatever anymore. Uh, but yeah, like I was like Sacramento don't really have anybody. I feel like face of the league. Uh, yeah, no, there's really not anybody that can really take that mantle at all. And I do think that's a problem. And I think it's a little bit because so this sort of what I was like. So once this sort of what happened, once you take away the team aspect, and you make it about players. Then cool, you gotta have the players, but what you don't want is that it becomes like baseball where it's like you like that player because it's here, and then like how they like how you like love your team or the A's, and then everybody else is like yeah, but what it's really popular here and that's really else. You don't want that really to happen because now you don't have to start, and it's like where do I go? I also feel like there's kind of so many players, but nobody has also really like stepped up that it's like who do I gravitate towards? Like there ain't no where with like LeBron, Wade, and Melo, or where you could be like you're a LeBron guy. It's like no Wade my favorite, no Carmelo my favorite. Blah blah bosh. There's nothing there. There's not, and maybe this draft will change it. With Victor, I was like Scoot because it seemed like even like Miller for a minute, but it just seemed like this might be more that people know about the draft more than normal. So maybe, but I still don't know. Anyway, enough of me rambling. Enough of me trying to figure out these things. That's not my job. That's a higher pay grade. Um, if you got any suggestions or anybody that you can think of, I'll be willing to listen and debate. Maybe do a part 2, maybe sure just to hit up on these people or whatever like that. But my picks are basically like Anthony Edwards, LaMelo, uh, I would like the 2 stars in this draft, and that's pretty much really what I got of like and that's just really because none of them has reached their potential just yet. And I was like, yeah, because I don't know. Anyway, like anything I had to say here, thanks, I appreciate it. If not, maybe next time. Till then, peace. I'm out.